Several drinks later. Hello and welcome back to this epic slog that we're going on. We're recording these in order live, so
yeah, we've no idea how this is going to come out.
I've had a couple of beers at this stage, and everyone's having a good time.
Yeah.
So we're just going to try and get through as many as we can, and we apologise for diversions as we go.
There's rambling tangents, I think, as we've seen in the previous one, extremely so. But also, things are told out of order. Some things are excluded for icy reasons.
Yeah, and we're going to miss stuff out.
We're going to miss stuff out. But
let's
we had
go.
An amazing
let's
time.
Go.
Let's kick into it. So pre-event.
So it's another Hakinia event, right?
Yeah. So the idea is, again, obviously, Empire can go ahead. So this had to be put together in a relative hurry again.
Yeah.
But at this point, Tom, Caitlin, and Phil, and everyone else who helps the crew are just actually like a pretty well-oiled machine, right? At this point,
Yeah,
they put it together.
They are the Eerielight Events group, right?
Yeah,
and they're kicking.
They learned a lot of lessons as well from the first event, and just went for something far more ambitious.
130 players. I think it was 135 was on the books.
Yeah.
But then some players had to drop out at the last minute. So I think it was like 129.
I think it was 129 in the end, yeah. But it was like, that's a lot of people. And yeah, they smashed it. It was so good.
The site was just outside of Birmingham.
It was a really good site.
Roots and something?
Yeah, it's the, I think it's called the Root and Branches.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Root and Branches, I think it was.
No access to water on site, unfortunately. Yeah. But they did provide an absolute shit ton of water. No showers, but toilets.
Yeah.
I had a great time.
I had an amazing time. And they had all kinds of things. We'll get to the site itself when we get there, but they had all sorts of stuff there.
There's one... so to colour the rest of what we're about to say, I had quite a serious thing happen to my back at the start of August.
Yeah.
I had to go in for surgery, and it was all very, very bad. So basically, I've had to be recovering since then.
Yeah.
So for the next two events I'm talking about, I really had to kind of take it easy, and I went as a non-combat character.
Yeah.
And basically, everyone had to lift everything for me from the car. So huge shout out to Ian and Bungle for being so great. And then everyone
huge
else.
Shout out to you for going, dude. I was so pleased you could go. I was over the moon that you were well enough to go. Because man.
It was rough, but like it was great to get out there and laugh.
Yeah, to be fair, it looked like you had a really good time,
mate. Taking photographs is like the best thing because I couldn't go fight.
Yeah,
it was like having the camera gave me an excuse to go to places and experience parts of the game that I wouldn't usually, but also like get to enjoy the combat side of things without actually taking part.
And you kind of scratched at it a little bit in the previous event because you'd obviously done photography there. And again, if you want to see any of the photos, we've got them. Some of them are on the Facebook page, and others are on the LRP Empire photos page.
There's a few videos on our Facebook, but like
it's
the rest
fun
of
stuff,
them,
right? So hopefully you get a feel for things and the spirit of everything.
But yeah, so basically, like I was very tentative the entire weekend about what I could and couldn't do, but fortunately I could walk around quite a lot, and that's basically what I did. So really, really good. Arriving at the event, we got player packs, and they actually had loot in them because it was another sanctioned event.
It was another sanctioned event, and this one had like just way more interactions with PD. Like the plot had been planned out a lot more. Obviously, they received resources actually from PD that could, like potions could be brewed and certain things could be made.
I got money, and I got a resource.
Yes,
and it was like I was actually kind of like fairly like anti the idea of giving out resources to player events because I was worried about the idea of you go to a player event and you have an advantage over other players, which you do in some ways, mainly the kind of like interpersonal stuff and political stuff.
The RP possibilities and the one-on-ones.
Player events are OP when it comes to that stuff, 100%. Like the connections I made at the last event, this event, and the subsequent event.
It's got nothing to do with the resources. It's the player interactions.
It's time. It's space.
All of that.
It's like having like chance to build like relationships with people that you wouldn't really have a chance to otherwise.
Yeah,
really, really good. It's like, but like having like a little bit of resources coming in, you burn through so many.
You spend far more than you get. and they're also not. It's not a huge amount of anything, so it's nothing that's going to change your game or make it. Like if you did hoard it all, it wouldn't mean anything, So yeah, it was good fun. It was really good fun. And then leading into this though, I really didn't want to actually do as many things as I did on the previous one. I just wanted to chill out a bit more. I'd really enjoyed the previous one, but obviously doing the plot, the monstering, and prop making and stuff. It was a lot to take on in sort of that 4 weeks. So I wanted to step back, and I just decided that instead all I would do is I would monster, and I would make props.
Yeah, you didn't like. What did you do though?
So I made these actually didn't get used, but I'm quite proud of them. They're kind of like these sort of things that can be attached to the chest that have like these arrow wounds that have these arrows that stick out of them. So you could attach. There's 4 of them, so you could kind of mock it up like there's 4 people who've been riddled with arrows, kind of thing. On the
they all got shot in the chest.
Yeah,
and, like you put them in your part of your kit, and they kind of sit there, and it kind of looks like you've been taken.
So we can set up corpses and stuff. So I did that, and that was quite good fun to make on the prop side of things. And then I also decided I would try and monster something a bit more scary, just to help out, right, to give possibilities. So I got a ghillie suit. I had some of those plastic leaves from before, and I had these 2 monster masks and these sort of rubbery gloves, essentially. So I could make this kind of like dryad-y, kind of forest monstery, sort of high over the lawn kind of style appearance. And the cool thing is I had this mask that looked like this kind of like this wood fey creature with like these eyes that I could turn on to make glow green.
Dude, it looked so good. Like when you sent me a couple of like idea images for it and stuff of you in the kit, it was like, dude, this is so good. Like it looked so amazing.
The even crazier thing was seeing what other people were doing though. Like looking at Robert and Robert's crafting for the monster that he made for this event was crazily cool.
and like he made this giant, like it's like 8 foot tall, 7 foot tall creature that's like
a full kit, like looks like a tree ant kind of style thing.
A tree. It looks like a tree, but a wearable tree.
Yeah.
And bear in mind, like this is like one of the for me was like one of the cool things about all of this was seeing a whole bunch of people that came into the game around the same time that I did, achieving what, like, when we first started doing the podcast, a couple of people started joking about us doing a player event, and we completely brushed that off as an idea at the time because it'd be too much work. But I think being involved, even the small parts that we played in these player events, was just such a wonderful experience. Seeing like new players that came in when we did achieve, a greatness within like LARP, right? To be able to provide so much game and enjoyment for everyone else, and in such a professional manner.
Everyone was so amazing. Good. Everyone pulled together so much. But we had, I had this kind of monster kit and these props and stuff. But that was really all I wanted to do. That was basically the limit of what I wanted to do. And obviously, you were going to do photos. The other thing I wanted to do was I've been making this armor for Talus, basically this new sort of fancy armor. I hadn't had it ready for the previous event, but I got it ready for this one, and it was like this has been like quite a big project, which is basically making this Lamnar armor that looks kind of flashy, very Talusy. Like all of the different discs, the metal discs that are on it have like this leaf, so this vine pattern printed on them in this circle, and then he's got this whole, and it's all green and gold. And it was like, I was super hype about it. But it was like, I was literally cobbling together the last bits of it like a few days before. And it was so cool. And the crazy thing is I didn't actually wear it because Talus didn't fight all event. But it was kind of cool as a challenge to get it done. And I can't wait to actually pop that on.
That's good.
Also made a scabbard for my sword and stuff like that. So I was kind of, again, pushing the kind of Talus kind of sort of flashy game. I made like this scabbard that was kind of like the right size for like a wearable town sword. That was kind of the idea of it. So I had this kind of short sword that I can kind of carry around, and thus there'd be no more problems with Talus not being armed. I've got a fancy sword. And the other thing was that we got a camp bed. I got a carp fishing bed.
I would say if you want to look for who is looking for the most comfort in the world, fishermen or women are the best to look at, because that bed that you got is the most comfy thing. and it pretty much allowed me to LARP for 2 events because of my bad back. Ian lent me his bed, and man, I slept like a baby. And I'm not talking about like pooping and screaming all night, like actual like really good sleep for the entire time. It was so nice.
I can't wait to try it out.
Yeah, and Ian, thank you so much.
No. It was a cool thing. I honestly think like they are expensive.
Yeah.
I got I think it's a Witchwood Tactical X flatbed for anybody who's interested. But for anyone who's after like increased comfort over your standard camp bed and has the money, they're a really, really comfortable way to sleep.
Yeah, and also if you work for a fishing company and want to sponsor us, then absolutely let us know. Like, I'll happily sell out for you. Like, please, it's so good. Also, like, okay, this is one thing that was like a common theme was wooden chairs and like. I don't know if this is a comfortable conversation. Like, both me and Ian are not the heaviest dudes, but we're friends with people that are like heavy guys, and it's like the paranoia around some of these chairs and people sitting down in them.
They're quite old chairs as well. Like, they're just garden chairs,
and it's just like it's really like so for me, I'm really keen on the idea of buying some more like fishing chairs, and then putting some throws over them.
Yeah, exactly.
They travel light. They're really strong. They're not going to make people feel uncomfortable or worried about where they're sitting.
They're more comfortable as well.
They're so good. Like, I think having a throw over a lot of those just solves all those problems. And the back support, everything about it's like so much better.
Oh, it's so much more comfortable.
Oh, man. The butt cheeks on some of those wooden
ones are really harsh.
Oh, yeah. Like, my butt's like 2 peaches and a hanky, right? And there's not enough flesh on it to really pad it when I'm sitting on a chair like that. So, I think camping beds all the way.
I think, like, just looking at ways to increase your own comfort at LARP, like your physical OC comfort, is really big and really clever. Like obviously, it's not cheap, and I understand, like, you know, you've had to build up towards a lot of these things.
It's the horrible truth is sometimes, like, spending money on, like, really things that are going to add to your comfort over a weekend are so worthwhile, i.e. fire, bed, seat.
The awning that we have, which is a massive indulgence, which is this fold-out sort of 3 or 4 by 4 meter awning that we can kind of put up and erect the fire under, set the seats under. It's a real luxury, but that as a feature in the camp, I think it improves the comfort so much. Yeah. That coupled with fire and chairs.
Also, it turns out in England, sometimes it rains here.
Yes.
So it's often good to have something that you can kind of just sit under while still being in character.
But again, they're all very expensive things, and you know, but it's definitely a way to look if you are thinking of like things that you can do to improve your comfort levels. All of those things help, and I would advise them. But
yeah, for sure. Right, let's get into the actual event then. So, actually arriving there, me and Bung arrived, and it was just like, it was the letdown of not being able to go to Empire was like, this was so good, arriving at the camp and seeing how big it was.
Huge camp.
My goodness.
So, the camp even had, because it was actually a camp that was used for their own LARP, so they had like a structure under which you could, say, set up a hospital. They had another structure which was like a kind of, it looked like a ship, like a wrecked ship, with like a throne in it. So you could use that as like like a place to sort of actually like have meetings with an audience that was under a roof.
We had I think it was a 60 was it 60 foot or 60 whatever. It was a giant ass fucking tent. It was enormous. It fit a bar in it and a whole seating area.
Was it a tent? I thought it was actually like a building.
No, it was a tent.
Was it a tent?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow, like how unreliable are we as narrators?
No, I honestly thought it was a wooden structure. I'm probably wrong. I'm definitely wrong.
What was crazy about it was, so we're all camping on the Thursday, and it was like, so think of it like there were 2 fields, 2 massive fields split up by a little ditch in between the two.
And a bridge.
Which
was really cool.
Which was also cool. There's fairy lights on it.
Yeah.
Navarre set up on one side near the entrance, and also I think it was High Guard set up
a couple of other.
And then on that side there was also the giant fucking tent. Okay.
Yeah.
On the other side there was all of Urizen. The whole of Urizen showed up.
No. There was like a good portion of
I would
players.
say a very good portion. like when Urizen are one of the biggest nations represented, it's like it's crazy.
I think yeah.
So then we had on the other side of the ditch on the other field was a giant Urizeni camp, like Urizeni on tour, like
it was so cool. So
Urizeni
many cool
summer.
players.
I mean,
Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah.
And then on the other side of the tent was everybody else,
Yeah.
apart from Dawn, who had their own camp over that far side as well. Okay,
Yeah, they did, didn't they?
but you know what was really crazy about it was when I got told, oh yeah, by the way, they're going to construct a wall that goes across behind where the big tent is,
Yeah.
all the way across that first tent, and then it's going to go across onto the second field behind the Urizeni camp and cut the entire rest of that thing off the
Right.
wall.
to
I
form this
heard
wall,
this-
but basically so you couldn't see the battles.
Yeah,
that
and
were
I
taking
heard
place.
this like, oh, that sounds cool. I can even picture it in my head. And then before I knew it, I looked back, and it was like there was literally a wall you couldn't see past with like tarps and like wooden like
metal supports. Yeah,
yeah,
it
it was
proper
like-
things. They were like really professional, proper things.
But it was like, well, that's a wonderful way to separate. Like, before you go out, you just don't know what the fuck's going to be on the other side, right? Like, and that
it was great.
it added so much. Instead of like, because the first Hikaneer event, it was kind of like light-hearted. It was very hard to hide things, so everyone had to kind of take it with a certain amount of salt.
Yeah.
But like in this, there were 2 skirmish areas. There was the woodland area,
Which was amazing.
Yeah. And then the giant field area for big battles.
And there was that NPC area that was used for like which I was not part of, but there was like meetings with heralds and stuff. And there was like an area.
I didn't even get into that.
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of crazy stuff happening.
It felt like mini Empire.
Oh, it felt like Mini Empire for sure.
Like
I really, it's not quite Empire, right? Because there is something very special about like an actual.
I
event.
described it as methadone compared to heroin, right? Like it was like it's still good, but not as good as.
It was just it's a different scale and it's a different beast. I think that's
Agreed.
how I would say.
I wouldn't even say as good as.
No,
is a wrong way to put it. Yeah.
But this was probably one of the best events I've ever been to.
Yeah,
It was really good.
I think seeing all the different nations and having very distinct groups around the thing that you can interact with, and how those groups actually interacted rather than having like one homogenous group was really interesting. So we all got set up, had a much more mild Thursday night.
Yes, we took it much easier this time, and it was so nice. Actually, it was a really lovely, chill thing. Like also Sasha, Orion's character, had set up like his Varushkan map selling tent like inside our camp. Super cool. Like that whole part of the story is amazing. I can't wait.
Basically created like he's done a bit of cartography and actually gone through the wiki and actually measured up the distances between the different areas on the wiki and designed the map that way.
Yeah.
So it's like way more precise than what
I don't know. Yeah,
yeah. It's damn good mapping.
It's a damn good mapping. Yeah, it's good fun.
And it looks amazing. But we will get to all things mapping over the weekend.
It was great, and like so. Orion and Sasha as a character have become really like a kind of an extension of the group almost, like a constantly welcome guest.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Right, we should get into the actual event
Yes,
though,
we
right?
should. Yeah.
So you unfortunately had thought you had lost your soft kit.
Oh my word. So yeah, I thought I'd lost my soft kit, which is like it was all those things where it's like you could try and make do, but it's like I've worked quite hard to try and like get the look of my kit right? Like, but I'd lost. It was things like my trousers and like my undershirts and stuff like that, and like all of my underwear, right? Like, so like it's the kind of stuff where it's just like losing it is really not an option, right? I can't really bodge all of that stuff. And I was like, oh man, so I'm just gonna have to go on this drive back. So I drive all the way back home. Fortunately, we're not that far away. That's the one thing to say. We're not that far. But it was a hefty journey there and back. Well, it's like 3 hours there and back, right? Probably a bit longer. But which was not ideal. But I did get to go home, I guess. I had a shower. Realised though that the things that I'd gone home for weren't at home and must be at the camp, and that I've massively overreacted in a very Ian-esh way.
Oh, it's so bad.
So
the worst thing about it was like I felt bad for you because of how you'd feel about it, because like you're sat there for the entire drive just kicking your own ass.
Actually, I was okay with it. I kind of, I was alright with it, to be honest with you. It was kind of annoying, like, for the first, 20 minutes, and then it's like, you're just driving, and I knew I'd be back, right? Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really a problem, and there was plenty of time, because that's the benefit of obviously coming on the Thursday and having the Friday. If you realise if you've forgotten something, you're not kind of already there. So you already been there for a while, and you can leave pretty early. So came back though, and basically found it straight away. It was just standing literally under part of the awning, and I just hadn't brought it into the tent, and that was that. So check everywhere before you make a very rash decision.
It was savage, but honestly, I'm jealous of the shower. So
yes,
there you go.
So we had some early skirmishes. Now, I actually was not as involved really in a lot of things regarding plot and all of that.
So I went on a bunch of skirmishes as a photographer.
Yes.
So I got to kind of like break the fourth wall a bunch of times in this, where I got to kind of like go behind the scenes and see what was going on. And basically, they had like a little woodland area where they could have these little woodland skirmishes against the Valorn.
Yeah.
And they were running them every half an hour, and you had the same crew. They took it in turns of 4 hours or so of crewing.
Yeah. I can't remember how long it was.
Oh, man. Like, there was some special shit going on back then.
Well, I was the monster for one of them.
Yeah. I think that was a Saturday when you were doing stuff. We should just, like... over the course of the weekend, I got to take pictures of different groups of skirmishers against players. Mainly what it involved with a bit of smoke. People come into an area, they fight some Valorn. Maybe an Ent flies out and tries to kill them. Bit of a fight. They deal with the Valorn and then get out of there. These developed over the weekend to a whole bunch of different things. So there were like some wacky shit happening later. But one thing I want to go into like real quick is how nice it was seeing the bond that the Valorn crew had.
When you're monstering together and you're doing several rounds of things and just hanging out.
It was so nice seeing the bond grow so quickly. I took a few like group pictures, but like trying to sum up, like everyone's a little tired. They've had a couple of skirmishes. They're into the Froggos at this point just to get some energy up. And they're having such a lovely time. And it was like, but they were all so unified in wanting to give the players that came through the best time. Like, I took this picture that I still, like, I'm gonna win a LARP award with. Which was... This? There's a picture...
That was at the...
There's a picture of just... There's a scene of the Valorn and the heroes fighting in the woodland, okay? And then in the bottom left-hand frame, there are just 2 feet point straight up in the air. And I know the one, so good because it's just like, I'm going to call it like dedication or something, because it's just so funny to have these 2 feet, like this guy's like fallen over and it's like his feet right up in the air, and it's just so good, the dedication to it. So that was a sort of vibe that was happening back there, and good times were had by all. Really, definitely. Really nice. You helped out at the hospital. Yeah,
so one of the things, obviously once skirmishes started happening, we had to form a hospital and get a triage area up. And yeah, just putting that together was like, it was done in a real kind of a dash, because I think somebody had come through who was injured. We had to sort of start putting all these things together, and I was actually not that involved.
This is one thing because I know a few new players that are new to the Physic game. Yeah. They were like part of setting up the hospital. Yeah. So it's these little, like if you're a healer and you're going to an event, setting up a triage station near whichever gate is going to be happening or whatever the entrance is a really good idea. And it's a really great way to kind of like bond people around you to play the game. Yes. Play your game that you want to play. And the healer block for the entire weekend was just on ham. They were just having the best time. Like,
there was so much fun things.
These skirmishes go out, they get Valorned, like they get miasmed, people get thrown out, traumatic injuries, like bear in mind our friend Jeffrey, who is a Dawn player who did the Dawn episode with us on the Nation episode. He's there throwing out serious injuries to what they call traumatic wounds to people. Like, bam, you get a traumatic wound and you get a traumatic wound, and it was just like so much fun. There was like peril, but at the same time like good times. That's what I love about LARP.
Oh, it was so good. Like, and setting up the hospital was great fun. We kind of go through it together, pull people in, got them for treatment and stuff. And like Sophie, who plays Fionn, I think, really did an amazing job actually like orchestrating a lot of stuff with like the hospital the whole time.
She's a really good example of a player that kind of like just, you can't tell how inexperienced they are. They just grabbed game by two hands and played their game. You know,
good.
like
so good.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you're being treated by Sophie, you would not know how little experience she has on the field.
I always assumed she had loads of experience.
No,
I just assumed that she was much more experienced
I
at
think she
playing
might
than
have
me.
one event, maybe something
really,
like
honestly,
that. Like it's not many. Like it's.
To be honest with you, I assume she's got way more experience than me. To be honest with you,
like some people just bring the heat.
Some people are just really good. Like she's phenomenal. She just organised the whole hospital really well, and there's loads of other people who helped as well. I should say. Mm-hmm. Actually, weirdly, being Talis and being like a healer and apothecary and stuff, I just decided I wanted a little bit less game this time. I just wanted to chill out and enjoy the experience of being there a bit more.
We had also been to the other event, and it was quite quickly afterwards. So I think we were all feeling a little. We'd gone through a lot of stuff that we wanted to do, and then we were like happy just to experience the event.
Yeah.
Right?
In the end, actually, we got drawn into a bunch of stuff.
We
got drawn into a bunch of stuff, but it was one of those things where I kind of wasn't as much a part of it as maybe I would be in the future, because I'm really up for the hospital game, by the way. It's so much fun.
So Sasha set up his little camping area with all of his maps out and all of his wares, okay? And I'm talking to him, and he's talking to me about, like, selling them, okay?
Right.
And I'm asking him, like, how much are you selling these for? And he went, well, I want to get this amount for them. And I was like, no, Sasha.
Yeah.
That is far too little to sell these for.
Yeah.
You should not sell them for that amount of money.
Yeah.
And he was like, but I always feel awkward when I'm trying to sell the stuff. And it's just like, this is, okay, dear listener, I'm not a bad person, okay? I want to make that clear. But he said to me, why don't you sell them for me?
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I'll have to get a commission. And he went, 20%. I took that immediately. Like, I could have pushed it to 25, but I feel a Varushkin 20% is as solid as you're going to get, and like negotiating at that point.
So good.
It's like, I've got a golden ticket.
It's like, these maps, by the way, are so beautiful.
I've got a golden twinkle in my eye. I've got the most beautiful maps in the Empire, and I'm earning 20% sitting on a beach. Do you know what I mean?
You went
like,
full Hans Gruber.
Oh my god, Hans Gruber all day long. I was like all about making that money. I was like, are you serious? Like, you've just unleashed. Like, this isn't pocket change either. It was just so good. And it was like, what's great about selling Sasha's maps are, they're fantastic.
They sell themselves.
Any salesman, like, loves a product that just sells itself. Like, people started sniffing around, having a look, and I was just like,
you were pulling people in to have a look.
It was so good. I loved it. It's like,
it was really good for you as well, I think. Right? It was a really nice part of game that you could properly sink into.
I can't do any of this stuff. It was really great for me to have something like a real purpose over the weekend was to shift these maps, try and get some money for Sasha as well, right? Like, it was like, it was really good. It was really good. Anyway, I do a whole bunch of wheeling and dealing over the weekend, come out of it with some serious coin by the end of it.
Well, you helped me as well. Let's not forget, you helped me sell stuff. We'll get to that later, but that was a lot of fun.
I feel like brokering might be my thing.
Dude, you're really good at it. Like,
I think I'm like legit now after the weekend. I'm worth 20%.
Yeah,
like I'll make it worth your while to sell your product through me.
Like, I can say, like, I'm going around, like, I've basically made these potions and these herbs and my books that I've been making. I've only got a few of those left. I'm walking around with them and I'm trying to sell them and not having amazing success, right? Geralt comes out and just starts shifting product, and I'm like, these are numbers I can't reach. This man's worth every penny, and I'm not even paying you.
Yeah,
I'm not even paying you.
But it was more like he saw Talis trying to sell it, and it's like, it's worth more than that. It's worth more than that. An artist really struggles with the value of their own art. I think that's one of the big things when you talk about actual like professional artists. That gap between them undervaluing their stuff and then being willing to actually charge the value of what it's worth.
You helped me sell my second box set of my book. Like there was only 2 box sets.
I think we're charging too little. Like we had far too much interest at that price point for that. This is OC. Like we need to talk about this.
No. Well, actually, like I'm happy to talk about this element of it. OC.
Okay, cool.
Like, I think it could make more money.
Yeah,
but I don't care. I want it. Okay. Like the whole point of writing the book is that it's part of the game, right? I don't want to just end sessions with like copies of them left in my bag.
Agreed.
Right? I want to shift them.
For premium items, though, I think there's a market. So when we first came into Empire, we had the idea of selling small things a lot to sell money, to make money, okay?
Yeah.
That's a lot of hard work.
That's a lot of hard work.
Okay? What you actually want to be doing is, unless you're selling cake with a child, if you're selling cake with a child, ignore what I'm saying, you will make bank. So add child to whatever you're selling, GG, you're going to win, okay? Like, that is making money. You can sell carrots, right? But like the big ticket items, what you need to do is find yourself a really talented person that doesn't know how talented they are, and then just sell their shit for them, and then make money. That's it. That's Gellert's road to success.
Oh, it was so
Find
funny.
the talent.
It was so.
There's
funny.
a word for this. Exploit, I think, is the word, but it is like. That's what you need to do.
No, honestly, like you shift product. There's nothing else to be said on the subject. Like there's a notable increase of.
But I think it's more like when I'm selling stuff, I'm never dishonest about what I'm selling.
No.
It's like you just basically need to let people know what you're selling, what it is, and then like and why it's special, and then players will come to you. I literally had a thing. I won't say who it was, but in the Eurozeni group.
Yeah.
I come over there with a bunch of these, and immediately, by the way, I'm also saying, here is these maps, here is how much they're worth. If you want this, like, you're going to have to let me know and put coin up. Otherwise, if someone else comes along with a better offer, I'm going to have to take that offer. Yeah. Okay. There are no other offers.
Yeah.
There is just the impression of other offers, and then people just start reaching for their wallets and trying to gather coin. There's one gentleman he had a throne and resources.
Right.
And I was like, well, we'll have to take them, but I would want a higher markup on the things. Then he got his broker in, and she came over and was like looking at all this stuff and was just like, this is worth this much, this is worth this much. And he was like, okay, how much would you play for then? And it's just like, that's the markup price. And it's like, well, let's do that trade then. Yeah. And it's like, to give me the coin.
Yeah.
And this is all playing out, okay?
Yeah.
Sasha saw this interaction and literally had to walk away. As the creator of the product, could not hack the kind of intensity of the bartering and how hard... Because Sasha would be like, just take it. Please take it. You clearly love it. Just enjoy it. Like, that's Sasha. He's such a lovely person. Yeah. But it was like so much fun seeing people like... gathered together all their money to pay for a thing.
It's a beautiful object,
and
they're getting a bargain.
I actually think it is actually kind of cheap. Actually, to be honest with you,
this ties back into what I'm saying though. Like, to be honest with you, like, I've made a lot of potions and weird herb things that actually I think are probably worth a reasonable amount of money as well. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of time and effort gone into them, but again, because there's been a lot of time and effort gone into them.
One guy bought them, who was a great player, by the way. I won't mention his name because I don't know, but he bought a map. Because a thing he had built
was on the map,
featured on the map.
Yeah,
that's how detailed these are. And it was like, I don't know what the value of that is. Yeah, but I think it's whatever you have.
So I actually work for a map department for a research library, and there's a really interesting thing that's happened in history, which is essentially people who make maps need to make a living just as much as anybody else, and in the past they will have approached people and said, I'm surveying this area, I'm making this map. If you could fund it, there might be a possibility of having your property listed on this map, and with a title. and of course then they got funding, and so it's a very real thing, right? That like you can see why like that is immediately appealing, right? You're interested in that. Like,
I think for the price, like I'm already selling it, but it's like even in your own home,
yeah.
Like, how cool would it be to have a map of an area in-game on your wall?
Yes.
But have stuff you had made in it. Yeah. So every time you walk past it, it's just memories and
what
awesome.
I mean, again, like, obviously, we're talking about things that Sasha can do. But, like Ryan can do, sorry. But, like, what if you did, like, personalised maps showing where people's banner locations were on the map?
I mean, really.
You know what I mean? Like, anyway,
I've got a golden ticket. I won't do the whole song again. But selling maps, selling your stuff, like, really, really good.
You were phenomenal. So, hats off.
Do you want to go into some of the craziness that was happening in the camp over the weekend?
Yeah, so you're probably about to go a bit deeper into this than me, to be honest with you.
I don't know whether I can.
Yeah, I didn't have too much to do with the plot throughout the whole event. What I do know is that a stone was placed into the hospital.
Yes.
And this basically started giving off an aura that was affecting people. And the decision was made to take the stone out of the camp.
Yeah, it had an aura to it.
Yeah. So
this was... mages show up, detect magic. Yeah. This has
the whole
like
shebang,
a whole bunch of things like trying to insight, whatever I don't know all the ins and outs.
Yeah, I don't know. This is beyond my pay grade.
There were priests and there were mages there, and there was lots of people trying to do their thing.
Also, there was rumours that this stone had been dropped off by somebody dressed in blue and white robes.
Ooh,
right, and blue and white robes, that kind of tends to sort of like make you think of certain nations. Urizen, for example, maybe something in Dawn, something like that. So, or some suspicion started going out, like who is this? Can we find this person? I don't know how that played out, but that sounded very interesting.
The rumour mill
yes.
in any event is... But that's how people get lynched, right? Like, that's how people actually get lynched.
Well, things got very feisty as things went
on.
Yeah, things got very, very spicy as things get on.
Well, we'll get to feisty
but,
later.
So the decision was made by Lanius to basically get the stone out of the camp.
Out of the camp, yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's reasonable.
And basically, he was going to take it out originally, but then there was a... player from the Marches who was playing like a Draugr and was I think a first time player, right?
I don't know.
He was amazing. I think he was. And
I don't know.
I don't know. I think he was, but he was just or his first time playing this character maybe, but he was amazing. He did like throughout the event like a whole bunch of things. But one of the things he did was take this stone out of the camp and fuzz it somewhere out of the camp, right?
The problem is removing the stone and fuzzing it sounds like a good idea until the moment you do it,
and then it sounds like.
And then it's like, what the fuck did we just do?
I know.
Did we just throw the plot into the woods?
Oh my word! And so then this started building up this whole thing of like, was this the right move? Was this the correct thing to do? He comes back with like a traumatic wound. There's all this stuff going on. There's this other whole plot which slowly starts getting unpicked from this point onwards, I think, of how there's like a Winter Herald out there who's making some kind of bargain or something. I know so little of this, I cannot inform you about all the details, but all of this is sparking off in the background of this whole event. It was a lot. There was
like a general sense of mistrust
yes.
and like suspicion.
Yes.
Over even other nations.
Yes.
Like, that was definitely a vibe. A little internal politics now.
Yeah, so we had a brands meeting, which is basically for our banner, the Entwined Past, which is a combination of various different steadings and stridings that are basically formed together to make this one sort of mega thing called the Entwined Past.
Mega thing.
Yeah. Right? We can relate.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Yeah.
It's good. Like a Megazord,
like
right?
Like a Megazord.
Like the different... They come together and make the big thing with the glowing eyes.
A mecha striding.
Yeah, a mecha striding.
Or a mega steading.
Yeah, exactly.
Mecha striding on mega steading.
Oh my god, the Entwined Paths is heading towards Tokyo. Yeah.
Full on, like, I'm a dickhead style Godzilla.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
What do you mean with the bad guys? What do you mean?
I'm kind of morally grey, actually.
Yeah. It's a lot of radiation.
Right. But no, so we have this thing where basically the brands of the different members of the Entwined Paths have a seat on the council and can speak and can discuss things. We have a player called Kaduk, who's played by John, who's just a fantastic guy, plays as the speaker. And
basically, it's like we had, because the last event we didn't have a majority on stuff. Yeah. So a lot of this stuff was more like a group of those steadings and stridings were coming together to really lay out what would best be described as a constitution.
Yeah, the constitution of the Entwined Paths.
And it was a really fun chat.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so there were like changing of power. So there was
discussion about what power the speaker should have, if any.
And everyone was so respectful of the circle.
Yes.
And
who's allowed to speak, like, for example, that we have, like, obviously voting positions and advisory positions.
Yeah, how they interact with each other, where the power actually lies, all of this stuff. And it's like, we're kind of setting up a kind of, it's very feudal. It's kind of like the chiefs of each thing are the absolute, like,
the top, but they're
legislator or whatever.
They answer to their subordinates.
But they aren't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
And the advisors on each subject have no vote on anything and can be completely ignored and actually voted out. So there's loads of.
But the consequence of those experts speaking on the things they're expert about and those details being ignored would be spoken of, right? It would be noted. Yeah. Like you can have that kind of thing. Like
it's basically any like political like graduate is like they're like it's really fun talking about it and going through the nuance of like legalities and how things will approach with this. And dude, this is coming from someone who, when we first started, was like, I never want to do any meetings ever.
Yes. Yeah.
And now I am like balls deep in this meeting, having the best fucking time.
It's so good.
Like, but also like I like the power dynamic between Talis and Gellert. Like, I asked your permission to speak.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, and you were like, speak freely. And then I was like, I could feel like tacit approval of stuff that I was saying and other stuff. It was really fun interacting.
There was a really, like, over the course between the two events, there was a whole thing of, at the end of the last event, for Talis, the question was resolved, right? About where his kind of heart lay.
His loyalties.
Yeah, and his loyalties and all of that. Like, but one thing that happened during the course of the event, which is a bit further in the future, but it kind of links in now, so I'll speak about it now. So was Lanius approached me, and he had like this. He basically had the conversation about with me, and was like, and I think you're where you need to be, kind of thing, right? And I was literally about to approach him and say the same thing, like that, about what my decision was, and he got me like this pendant, which is like this owl clutching these three arrows. And it's just like and it's like the owl is the symbol of like the crystal skies, and then the arrows, obviously all this it was super cool, right? I was really touched by it.
That's awesome,
right? And it was like we embraced, and it was proper I'll always like try and help, right? Like I'm always there, but this is where I need to be, kind of stuff. I got a really nice, genuinely really nice character resolution to a bunch of stuff.
But I think that's what's cool about story, right? Like. Even by and D&D players will know this, LARPers will know this.
Yeah.
Sorry, excuse me. Arcs happen naturally.
Yeah.
And you should just enjoy them and then be aware of them when they happen, right? Like I would also agree that arc,
that wave of the character arc's over, but there's another wave coming.
It will flavour everything that comes after it. But that very specific thing, and I think that was the hangover for 2 years.
Yeah.
So therefore, having a chance to process that and get it out is so good.
Yeah, it was a really cool thing to do as a group, and it was exactly what I wanted from the character. Mm-hmm. Like that is exactly what I sought out for. And it was really nice the way that everybody helped guide it and treat it as a story element. Because bear in mind, we're talking about this from like a perspective of I'm getting into RP, right, and that like people have allowed me kind of to tell this story as we've grown into more and more RP and got better at it, and I got like a really satisfying character resolution to that particular element. So I had a cracking time. That was a really touching moment.
Yeah. Okay, songs and stories, mini songs and stories.
Yeah. Oh my word! So this was run by Vic 2 Feet, who is Justin's character,
who is known as the big guy from the earlier episodes.
Yeah.
Who is now
also played as Keaton previously.
I got big homie feels for Justin. Like getting a chance
awesome.
to hang out with him and game with him is really, really fun.
He came over to our camp a bunch of times. Was hanging out. We had just a top class fellow. And so he was running Songs and Stories, and there were just phenomenal performances. Right, bear in mind, talking 129 people.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much talent there. Like people doing beautiful songs. I mean, there was this guy, I think he was from Dawn. I'm terribly sorry if I'm wrong, but he was so talented and he was doing all these different things. Justin's putting out some absolute bangers, kills his voice on the first night because he's just belting them out. They're so good. Sophie did a bunch of songs. Her character Fionn just delivered, I think, about 2 or 3 different songs during the course of the night. It was That's really awesome. Good. And
this was a theme, actually. I got the feeling, I don't know if you felt this, but at Anvil, I should say, there are key players that do things that are really important to a nation.
Yeah.
And at player events, they're not there.
Yeah.
So people step up to the plate. This happened on Friday night a lot, actually, where people were just singing songs on Thursday as well, actually. And it didn't matter if you got the words wrong or you're out of key or got the timing right. Everyone just wanted to hear you sing or whatever it was.
It was exactly like the same spirit as Songs and Stories.
Yes.
It was Songs and Stories. No separation. It was Songs and Stories. Yeah. It was so good.
Agreed.
And
don't apologize.
All of that was
whatever
there.
you got. Is good enough.
The spirit of it was totally Songs and Stories.
But going back to the in character Songs and Stories on that Friday night, I rock up there, okay?
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of Chardonnays,
yeah.
Okay? And there's a few people saying around the story, and I'm I want to tell my story around a live circle.
Yeah.
I'm a little underprepared. I didn't quite have it right in my head before I did it, but you know that moment where you're okay, I don't know if everyone else feels like this. When you have something that you're kind of nervous about, and I'm one of those people when I'm standing next to the thing I'm nervous about and I have to go and do it, I'm thinking about it all the time, and it kind of eats me.
Yeah.
So the best thing I've come up to do is just to kind of grab myself by the back of my own neck or whatever and just throw myself into the situation. So literally rock up, song finish. I listened to 2 songs and then it was there was a lull, and then I said, "Don't I have a song and story?" Someone said, "Don't I have a song and story?" And I said, "I have a story."
Yeah.
And I literally just launched into it with as much confidence as
fantastic.
I could.
You did a really good job.
I didn't have my tambourine.
Yeah.
But Orion did, Sasha did, so I said, "I'm sorry, could I borrow your tambourine?"
Yes.
And it was just I was those little moments of adding performance to it are it's I'm inside. By the way, I'm inside that, terrified, and freaking out.
Yeah.
But on the outside, I'm just boom, let's do this thing, right? And this is where we were talking about before with the idea of banter.
Yeah.
I loved people asking questions, laughing, giving feedback on stuff, so I could zing off the back of them and continue my story, basically.
It was so good, dude. You did an amazing performance.
There's a couple of hooks that I didn't put in, which I wanted to put in, which is annoying, but
it came off great. I actually missed a little part of it because I found out halfway through that I left the lights on in my car, so I literally had to run and turn them off. I'm so sorry, by the way.
You just had a rough,
I was so
a practicality
sorry.
weekend.
Oh, it was one of those where I was just geez. So I literally missed a little bit of the middle, but I actually really enjoyed it, dude. It was such a tragic moment for that to happen. I'm so sorry I left.
No, but I think it's more it's still good, and also it's something I have to remind myself is just because something isn't how you perfectly view it in your mind doesn't mean it doesn't have value. So when you're putting it out there, just because it isn't up to where you wanted it to be doesn't mean that you didn't let other people enjoy it, right?
Yeah. And there was just a great spirit of everybody giving it a go, right? And Sasha did some performances as well that were really good, and then Bungle was playing drums this whole time as well, and I think Tom was helping out with instruments and stuff as well, and I think Bung did such a good job on the drums that the next day there's this ritual that's taking place to restore people's hero points. And Justin invited him along to do this.
There's like a ritual element to receiving this stuff. So people get to like play drums and do performances to revive people's hit points.
Yeah, so, and he was part of that. It sounded. I wasn't part of it, but it sounds really cool. Like that sounded like a great time. The thing that happened for me at Songs and Stories was there's this player called Ravadia, I think, and she was like phenomenal all event. But like she did this song.
Is this the Dawn?
Yeah,
she's awesome.
Really good, right? Like
this is an example of a completely new player.
I wasn't sure if she was new or not.
No, she's totally new, but like smashing.
So good, dude.
Like her costume's top notch. I don't want to go into too much, but I know she's like thinking about other nations and stuff. But yeah, she's like playing 5D chess on her first fucking outing. It was
so good, dude. And like, so she does this song, right? And like, because I had been thinking about doing my song live like the whole night. It was one of those things where I was basically like, after you did yours, I was like, yeah, I need to do it, right? But it was like I kept thinking like, I'll do after the next song, right? And of course, the end of the night is drawing near.
No.
So, but she does this song, and it's just so inspiring because she really kind of gave it a go and just had so much courage in doing it that I was just like, I have to do it, right? Like I have to.
Yeah.
So then I did mine afterwards, and it's like hats off to her. She really gave me the confidence to step out and do it, just for the strength of the performance. And I sang it, and it was way better. And I slipped up once, but only briefly, and I got to perform it how I wanted to perform it. Like, there's a bit at the end of the song where I talk about like, basically life can be swift, a mere flicker of sand. And like, I'd wanted to do this thing. It's really simple, right? I just wanted to pick up some sort of dirt from the ground and rub it between my fingers and throw it as I say it, right? And I got to do that live in front of the fire, like throwing it into the fire, and like delivered like the end lines of the song and stuff. And it was super rewarding. Like everyone, it was by that point as well. It was quite a small crowd of people because it was right near the end of the night. But yeah, walking away and knowing that I'd actually performed it better was so good, dude. I felt really great afterwards,
mate. That's what it's all about. That's exactly what the fuck it's all about.
That was probably like one of the main parts of my event. Just actually doing that was so good. So like, massive thanks to Becca for that. She was great. She was actually like a really welcome part to a whole bunch of my like couple of weekends. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, let's keep going, Ian. Yeah, into Saturday.
Ian, we're so slow right now. We need to keep going.
We're doing all right. We're into Saturday.
Oh man, do you reckon we're going to be able to make the whole thing?
We'll finish this one, but we'll see where we go. But like, no, we're into Saturday then. So
okay,
it kicks off with a battle against the Valorn, right?
Yeah.
And like we're talking now a lot bigger scale battles than we've had before.
Okay, actually, I'll do this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so me being photographer, I was like lovely skirting through. Oh, I just want to say, like, I really want to touch on one point. The crew for the skirmishes were absolutely fantastic. They gave their time and effort, and they were so good. Like little things, like one of them said to me, "You should be wearing a high vis while we're doing these things." I'm like, that's a really great point. High vising it up is a really good thing, so it doesn't confuse players. But like, really, they were just so good. The crew, by the way, I just want to say,
you're spot on. Like everybody I worked with was
professional,
super
safe, wanting good game, guiding good game.
Yeah,
really,
so
really good. So Saturday morning comes around. The one half of the field is like getting ready to go, okay, and it's like it's all of like Navarre and a few other different groups are gonna like suiting up, and I'm like, oh, sweet, like everyone get ready, right? I'm gonna go and look behind the curtain. So I literally go up to the curtain, I pull it back, and I go through, and it's like a whole different world. It's like there's Valorn, there's Eerielight, there's Ents, there's a giant tree man. Yeah. It's like, I'm like, holy fuck. There sure are a lot of you and not many people behind the curtain that's about to face you. And I was like, this is going to be bad. This is going to be very bad. Like, big monster characters. Everyone was fucking hype. Everyone got to sleep the day before. Like, everyone's good to go.
Yeah.
The battle is like Eerielight way at the other end of the field, okay?
Yeah.
They're all sitting there like, Cooey, come get us, rah, rah, rah.
Yeah.
Imperial forces go through the gate. They spread out.
Yeah.
start advancing down the field. As they're getting like engaged with the Ezetruniel, that's when like the Valorn spawns start coming out
from the back,
behind them, from where they were blocking them from the exit. Also joined by ents, like tree, like normal sized tree people.
Yeah, so I was dressed in my kind of woodland monster costume, essentially.
Which is like,
there's 3 of us.
Which is surprisingly simple when you actually went through it with me.
Yeah.
Because my interaction with it was like as a kind of enjoying it in game.
Yeah.
And it really is just like, it's a ghillie with some extra stuff like fake leaves
on
top of it.
thrown over it, yeah.
And a mask.
Yes, and then 2 gloves. That's it.
And it's like, boom. Fucking forest monster creature running along, high speed, terrifying.
Hopefully it was that way. Like the mask sells it all. Actually, the mask is a really good mask.
Agreed, the mask is really good. But you made like a little gang. I got like one picture which is really really nice, which is a guy like after the battle, which was one of the M people raising his hands in the air in celebration of how much fun he had. And I think that's a really good representation of it, right? Like, you had Jeffrey following around Tom, who was in the big monster suit, and he can't hear shit, and he's being guided around, and everything's going well. But basically, the battle, everyone advanced forward, hit the Ezetruniel, then they get invaded by Valorn. They have to try and do something, I can't remember what.
I can't remember.
A ritual.
I think there was a ritual
something.
that had to take place. Yeah.
Then they're like, we need to get the fuck out of here, and then they're trying to leave. Robert's trying to like guide people. Like everything's a little bit nutty.
Yeah.
And then they kept on getting hit by wave after wave after wave of baddies.
Yeah.
Until it got to that bit right in the middle, right, where everything got a bit crazy.
Yeah. It broke down into like sort of like 1v1, 1v2 fights at stages,
and a couple of Navarre went down.
Yeah.
And it was, I only got to see, I missed Daniel's death.
Yeah.
But a young guy, this is his first time out of academy actually playing his character.
Yeah.
Is like, he dies and gets turned into a Valorn husk.
Yeah.
I think he gets killed actually. So he
did turn into a Valorn husk, like as he was alive in that state for a brief period and then was killed and executed.
That's what happened.
And just so you know, basically the idea is that if you're killed by a Valorn, you will turn into a Valorn.
Yeah. And
your soul, in theory, is trapped inside you as a husk.
Yeah. And which we want to do. It's the worst way to go.
Yeah, it's the worst way to go, right? Because you're not in control of your own body and all that kind of stuff.
You could be there 1,000 years.
Exactly. So we kill them and we execute them to release the souls. That's basically the idea.
And Sasha.
Yes.
Sasha got caught out
of position. Glorious Varushkin.
He got hit. He went down. He got physicsed up. Like any true hero, he turned to face the enemy without realizing that the lines had moved past him. And then they swarmed him and he went down. Oh my god, I've never wanted to be... I felt like, you know, like how the BBC, like wild photography people are? Yeah. Like they look at like a baby penguin, like lost out on the fucking ice by themselves, and you're like, oh man, that baby penguin's not going to make it.
Yeah.
And you're like, I want to intervene, but you can't. And that's how I felt about Sasha's death.
Oh.
It was heartbreaking.
I didn't see it. I was like, I didn't hear about it till afterwards that she got back to camp. I was like so sad about it.
Everyone was. Like, Sasha had such
I was massively sad about Daniel's death as well, right? Because like Owain, his character.
Yeah.
Like and there was another death as well, by the way, I think. I'm not
No, I think there's only 2.
There was another one during... Oh, no, that was somebody else, a different part. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think there's only 2 in that battle.
Yeah,
but, it was like...
but Daniel's character dying was like... Owain's been a character who Talos has kind of been sort of semi-acting as like a teacher for like healing.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't... To be honest with you, I always felt bad because it wasn't like a part of the story.
Daniel's like a young guy,
and
but basically we're a real fan of the Burden Boys, basically, right? Good. Like Daniel's got 2 sons, Richard, who's Callaghan, and Daniel, who's what's Daniel? Well, he's dead now, isn't he?
Owain was his character.
Owain, yeah. But they're both really great young lads, and we're definitely we really like them around the camp, and we're not the sort of people that usually hang around with like 16-year-olds or 18-year-olds, right? So it's really nice just to get to know them. So. His death was really, really, really sad, wasn't it?
Yeah, and so we decided we would do a telling for his character, which is a Ashbourne tradition of basically telling stories about the person who's fallen.
Yeah, it's a funeral, right?
Yeah, it's a funeral, but we all sit around and we tell a story.
Everyone stands up and tells a story. It's a really nice mechanic to basically get people... Like, if you die, lots of people don't really realise their effect they have on the game.
Mm-hmm.
So even a lot of his telling was very OC. Like, we were like...
Yeah, I think we all brushed against it, but I think there was like as well like respect for keeping it IC.
No, I want to clarify that by being like there were just genuine feels.
Yes,
for how great we think Daniel is as a guy. So we're like, we're telling stories about Gawain or whatever, but it's really about him and how great he is.
Yeah.
So that was a really nice touching moment.
It's a cool thing that we have as a striding, and it's basically looks like it's becoming something that we're going to do for the wider Entwined Paths. And it's a cool thing for me because I'm like I semi-lead it, and it was a really good fun thing to do. So we were going to do that for Wayne, and the plan was to do it for Sasha. Mm-hmm. The issue being that we didn't want to do it until his soul had been released.
I think this is a really good rule.
Yes,
that if a member of our group has been taken by the Valorn, and we haven't released their soul, then they don't get a telling. Yeah. I think that's excellent. That's excellent RP, and I think
it was really good.
That way.
So we actually decided on that there, and I think I made that decision actually.
Yeah,
because it was like my call to make.
Yeah. But then Sasha's brother Gregor showed up.
Yes,
who looks remarkably like Sasha,
but he had an entirely different kit, different color. Like, because Sasha wore a lot of red.
He went for the mustard.
And then he came back with this kind of mustard costume, but he also had this cool hat that had all of these kind of symbols on it.
Yeah.
And then he played it like, in fact, he'd been coming here to have a word with his brother because he was actually the guy who made the maps, and his brother was like taking a cut from it and stuff.
I was like, me and Sasha made a deal. Like, he was like, I'm his broker. I make 30%.
Yeah, you upped it by 10%.
He was like,
so good.
He was like, that doesn't sound right. And I was like, I'm just testing you. It's only 20%.
Yeah.
But it's good that you figured it out like so far.
Yeah,
You're just like your brother. And then it's like that. Then we went back into business together.
It was so good. Yeah, and it was like, you just hit it off where you were and went about selling maps. And it's like, it was a really cool moment. Like, and like he came back. Because the thing is as well, Gregor is actually a separate character as well.
Yeah,
and like that was. Really cool.
He's definitely different.
Yeah,
different from Sasha.
Yeah,
they're not the same person.
They're not the same person. He did a really good job of it. And bear in mind, he had to. When you die like that, you have to throw it together pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
He did.
He was prepared. He knew. He was planning. Like he knew that things could happen. Yeah, like we touched on earlier, we went around and we did lots of skirmishes. I took a lot of pictures of different skirmishes, which was really fun.
Yeah.
We sold a lot of potions as well.
Yeah, sold a bunch of potions.
The books.
They went, like, I'm out of books, basically. And collectively, as a striding, because Fire made money last time in the combat, right? Bungle's made some money, you've made some money.
Yeah.
I made some money. So it's
most productive Ashbourne has ever been.
It's not like we're rich at all. Like,
no,
we're not at all rich.
No, I know what rich looks like. I saw rich at the last player event.
So it was the fact that I walked up with this book in this box, and I was like, "Oh, I normally sell these for like 4 thrones," and someone just dropped a 5 throne coin and was like,
"Do you have change?"
Yeah, I bet you've never seen a coin that big. Was literally what they said. Yeah. I was like, knowing that it was true. It's so good. It was it was a great moment,
mate. There is rich and there is wealthy, and we're not even either of those levels yet.
No, we are decidedly modest.
Just
is what I would say.
Like we're very.
We can barely understand our own standard of living, right? We can barely afford it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So that was all great. Like,
what did Lanius give you?
That was the bit I was talking about earlier. He gave me that pendant. Yeah. So that was really cool. That was just a really nice moment. Something else that was really good fun to do, actually, like throughout both events, I quite liked having these wooden bowls, and I'd fill them with like sweets and things. I'd just walk around offering them to people, and I did it quite a bit in like a mother hen kind of way, I suppose, at the first event. But at the second event, I had like these cupcakes and stuff like this, and I just had a really great time walking around all the camps, just giving them away. And it was just like, it was cool. I got to talk to a lot of people and hang out.
I have a pet peeve of when Asnak is going around in a circle and everyone just keeps handing each other the bowl forever, going round in a circle, and it pisses me off. I'm like,
I'm that guy who
this has been here twice before. If anyone wanted this, they would have taken it by now.
That's me.
It's just moving slowly ever onwards through this drunken meander of going round in a circle, and I don't want any part of it anymore. I just don't want to be. Send it back the other way. You know? Don't worry, I'll ping it back when it gets to me again.
You had a cupcake like everyone else.
No, I didn't. That's not true. That's a lie. I did not have any cupcakes. Anyway, stones. Let's talk about the stones.
Yeah, so there was. We talked before about a stone that was placed in the hospital. Again, I was not really hugely part of this plot. There were 2 other stones apparently somewhere else, different place in the camp. They actually resolved, and there's so much stuff that happened in the background of this that I don't know about. But they managed to resolve this stuff by basically going back, finding the stone that had been lost out the night before, and getting it, bringing it back, destroying the enchantment or whatever it is that was on it. And doing the same for the other 3 stones. Cadogan was heavily involved in all of this, by the way.
Yeah, there were players that put
multiple
loads of
people
effort
coming
in.
to seeing him and like getting consultations on what to do and performing rituals, all kinds of stuff that was well beyond my sphere of knowledge. Basically, we ended up with these 3 cursed, broken sort of stones at our camp, and that was just like so random and weird. But it was really good fun.
Did you like what? I always found it confusing what was happening with the stones at the time. Like, they were basically, like, dropped off by the heirs of Turuniel, I think.
Okay, so I don't know. There was basically, I think so, but there was also another plot going on, and I can only touch on this very loosely because I don't understand it very well. There was another plot going on, and the main plot was essentially there was a group of people who were here before, and they went missing, and one of those people had made a bargain with some Winter Herald or something that they would make some sacrifice, and part of it involved becoming a Draugr, which is to sort of like become this lineage.
I bumped into some of this.
Right. There was, but part of it was also, part of this spell also meant that the person thought that they'd been there for 15 years or something, when in fact they'd only been there for a few months. This caused massive conversations across the whole camp. Again, I wasn't massively part of it, but our friend Simon, who plays Marcus, was this guy.
Okay, I didn't know this.
Yeah.
All I knew was that he wasn't who his character was.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, so I was getting kind of drunk and having a good time, and it was like, oh, we're going to go on the skirmish, and I was like, I can't fight, and they were like, well, why don't you just hold the light? And I was like, I can hold the light. So basically, I got lent a light from an orc player. I had loads of really great interactions with the orcs, by the way, which I really can't go into, but they're amazing. So I'm holding this light, and we're going to go off, and we're going to go to the woods, and then the ritualists are going to go into some aura.
Right.
They're going to do some sort of conversation with some people, and then we're going to come out, and we have to stay really quiet because the Valorn are all around us, and it could kick off if we do.
Right.
So, but there's 20 of us armed to the teeth heading off as this escort in the dark.
I didn't know
Me
about
holding this light. And, Simon's character just starts, dropping, ever so often, the odd little thing that's oh shit. Oh no, this could go bad. So it's me and Becca, the Dornish person I was talking about before, we're I'm giving her looks this shit's about to go fucking south right fucking now, and I'm talking to him hey brother, why don't we relax, why don't you tell me your problems? He's like, no, we made a deal, you're alright. And he keeps on trying to escalate up, and I'm we bring him back down again, escalate up, and we bring him back down again. And then finally we managed to kind of the people finish their conversation, and then we leave. But then there's loads of rumours about one of the ritualists being left behind, and there's loads of I
didn't know any of this.
And this is what happens at LARP, late.
Yeah.
Weird, what's going on, who's missing, no, the person's found, they're at their camp, no, they're still missing, who told you that, blah, blah, blah. Chaos.
So, the only thing I knew about any of this was when Ravidia held the sort of this kind of impromptu kind of meeting, basically, is the way to describe it, right on the field. All the players were called to this sort of standing, if you like, to come and listen to what had been going on.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of voiced it all with some of the other players of the events as they understood them. And then everybody was able to ask sort of loose questions and stuff. It was cool. It was a really cool moment. And part of the product of this shortly after was that people worked out that Simon's character, who was this person from this deal that had been made, was actually in our camp. And therefore the decision was made, until they could decide what to do, that they should just keep him busy. So they asked Sinwig to basically keep him occupied, which basically meant plying him with alcohol at the entire path's camp. So,
it's a very nefarious solution to a problem.
It was, and but yeah, so that was. I actually have no idea how that plot actually panned out, but it sounded like a lot of fun.
But I think like there's part of it where I kind of like, I don't need to know everything that happened at an event.
Yeah,
I'm more than happy to bump into parts of it and have stories to tell that I can learn what actually happened later down the line. You know,
one of the things where this impacted me most was the effect all of the background stuff in this event regarding the stones and things impacted Urizen and the politics there. Because Lanius had made the decision, obviously, to get the stone out of the camp. Other people had other opinions on whether or not that was a good action. There's also a lot of internal friction within Urizen, which was quite interesting. I can't go into it too much, but like fairly...
No. There was all sorts of Urizen-y popping off this weekend.
It was really good. It was really good. But it was quite late at night. But it was good.
Yeah, like I would say, if you have to do some RP, don't wait until 3 AM to do it.
Yes,
or you will upset a lot of people who aren't involved in your game.
But it was cool RP though. I have to say
it was. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So, what's this Bungle as bandit leader NPC?
So I heard Bungle was basically telling me, and again, I wasn't here for any of this. This is purely third-party storytelling. But he was telling me that he did this thing where there was a plot with one of the players that they were like an ex-thief.
Oh, I heard about this.
Yeah.
And they had stolen the loot, or there was something about like these trade a partnership. So basically, a job gone bad. Right?
Yeah, so it was basically these people who was this kind of bandit leader who was played by Bungle, and some other people basically got in touch with this character, and like they're obviously old crime buddies, to have a meeting with him. They invite him to this meeting. He goes along, and they basically ask him where the chest is, and he's like, "What chest?" and all this, and it kind of is like a conversation about like, you know what chest it was. If you didn't have it, who had it? Kind of thing. Like they'd obviously done a job together. The chest had gone missing. Classic so Reservoir Dogs kind of style stuff. And it ended in a shanking, and then like, sending him on his way. It sounded cool. Like I wasn't part of it, but like I think Bungle had a really good time doing it.
Mate, like Bungle's coming into his own right now. The there was a bar.
Yeah.
And I drank quite a lot on Saturday night.
And another thing you did that I thought was very, very entertaining was we go up to the bar and you're like, I'll buy everyone here at the bar a drink. And bear in mind, this is all in IC money. And it was like, it was the way that your character suddenly became Flash of the Cash. And you were standing right next to Talus. And then he was like, I kind of looked at you and say, like, I approve of all of this, right? Like, this idea of, like, you going a little bit fancy. You're getting a little bit...
But I think there was an element, and I really don't want to go too much into this, where Talus doesn't know quite yet, but might have got an inkling that Gellert Ashbourne is more than he appears to be.
Yeah.
And he's getting his fingers into many different
pies.
No,
we know about this. Yeah.
And like we were talking about before, like the last event before this one, I was the first time I felt comfortable talking about politics and a bunch of other stuff. Like I was holding court like at Fallen Queen, right? Like I was just like, I got into like a conversation with a new player and we went pretty hard on the political stuff. I even had to go up to the guy and be like, hey, I'm really sorry. And he was like, I was like, hey, I'm really sorry if that went too hard, like politically. He was like, no, man, I loved that. Like, new player, really, really loved it. But yeah,
it was cool. It was just like as a character element, you being suddenly Flash with money, and
pretty good, right?
It was really nice. I loved it as being Talus, right?
But it's prosperous.
Yeah.
You share what you have, right? Like it's not about holding up.
Because like one of the kind of like underlying currents has been like Talus is a little bit like, you know, he kind of spends the money he makes kind of thing, and then to see your characters kind of do the same in the same sort of
Well,
thing. Kind of.
I think that's how Talus might view it, but
it was cool, dude. It was really cool. I loved it.
I want to quickly bring up some very fashionably dressed leaguers. I've never felt like, whenever I hang around with leaguers now, especially this group of leaguers, I always feel poor and underdressed.
That's exactly how league should be.
Yeah,
like make you feel
exactly how it should
like
be.
You are in your place, peasant.
Yeah,
Skirmishes.
Like their costume game is like so good. It's professional level. It's like on brief. It's just, I think one thing about like the events that we've been to, the kit quality and what that allows to be as the world building around you is just such a high level. Yeah, like people look exactly where they're from. Yeah, but with character. Yes, and it's really special.
People have really taken kit into wonderful directions. Like the quality at the player event was phenomenal. Like everyone was on point.
Right, so I got pretty drunk on Saturday night.
Right.
And I was around the campfire, and one of our members had mentioned how he had heard Dawn, a member of Dawn,
oh my word,
say something.
Right.
And he said it as a passing comment in conversation.
Yeah.
And what he heard Dawn say, a member of Dawn say, was "Death to Navarre."
Right. And Gellert went off on one.
Okay, firstly, you can't let that stand. You can't let that stand.
Okay, so just for context, everyone, before this goes too deep, right?
Yeah.
I'm having a pretty chill time. I'm walking around, like, I'm pretty relaxed at this stage. I'm pretty much ready just to sit my ass down and enjoy the end of the evening just chillaxing.
Yeah.
And then everyone's like, Talus, you seen Gellert? And then they were like, because you might need to go and calm him down because he's gone off to Dawn because they've said death to Navarre and he wants, like, he's going to kick off about it. And I was like, what is...
I think one thing I heard was that it described it as Gellert's gone to start a war with Dawn.
Yeah.
And I literally marched across that field and just started yelling about how unvirtue it was. One, I wanted to know who did it.
Yeah.
And then I wanted their side of the story.
Yeah.
And then there was an accusation. And then members of Dawn defended that member. And I was like, how dare you defend his actions for saying that? All I want is an apology. And it escalates so much, man.
Because
like,
you have
it was just
Dornish
so
pride,
good.
You have
and it's like it's late as well, so everyone's had a drink, and it's just this crazy yelling at each other. Definitely a drunk, angry man fight, but it was really good fun.
Yeah,
got my apology for the record, just in case you were curious, dear listener. But afterwards, I left. I got taken to one side by some Eerielight,
right?
Who said you might want to meet someone.
Okay.
And I met a person who really didn't like Dawn.
Right.
Who gave me many reasons why Dawn aren't very nice.
Right. You sure you can talk about all this?
Well, I'm going to talk about it in the way that is like abstract, but my only point to illustrate this is, I don't think it's a secret that this person doesn't like Dawn, by the way. But like by doing something dumb, and it was dumb, to go and like kick off about something that's like really like OC me,
it doesn't care.
It's such a, of course it was an offhand comment, right? Like it was such a dumb thing to say, and like everyone's having fun. I'm sure it was like half OC, right? But I see, the honor of Navarre has been fucking besmirched out of loyalty, and like you have to deal with that shit, right? Like this game, but that leads into other game, right? Like, and that's one thing I'm learning more and more is like sometimes like by taking the option and being the extreme of a thing, it opens up so much more game than you would otherwise.
Like, so I think there's parts of the game, right, and I've kind of found this, where there's parts of the game where I'm happy to just play out a fairly like mundane stride, right? And but there's other parts of the game where I want to push and be the exception and have people challenge me on points, right? That's the whole point, right? Is to have like contest in action.
But it's oh god, that's a beer burp. the way that kind of like helps other people play the game and have a better experience is what it's all about, basically. Oh my god, I'm going burpy. Let's keep going, Ian.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we're kind of getting to Sunday, I think.
Yeah,
we're probably brushing over some stuff. But let's keep going.
Not too much to talk about Sunday. There was the big battle, basically. Well, actually, that is a big thing to talk about. The big battle against the Jotun. It is a huge thing
to talk about. So the Jotun battle on the Sunday.
Yeah.
The opposite was true about the numbers.
Yes.
So I would say it was at least 2-1 in favour of Imperial forces.
Potentially. I don't think it was quite that much, but it was heading that way.
I would say it was.
Yeah.
I would say it was. But the Jotun was supposed to be... they had a grave, and they were supposed to be digging it up. And
that was really cool,
20 minutes of RP, and they would win.
Yeah.
But what actually happened was... the Imperial forces came out and just ruffle-stomped everyone.
Yeah, pushed off the objectives so quick.
The Jotun had been supercharged.
Yeah.
That didn't matter.
It didn't matter at all,
They got ruffle-stomped, they kept on respawning, and basically it was a jolly good time for every Imperial force that took that field.
Yeah, there was a couple of times where we like pushed them in certain sectors and stuff, and people went down and stuff, but they... And like, the thing is to remember it as well, sometimes when you're in a battle... and it feels like you're getting beaten really badly. For other players on the other side, other parts of the line, it's actually quite desperate.
This is talking from me photographing.
Yes, you're a photographer,
and it's like, so I had like it's slightly different from being in those moments.
Yes,
and I think like honestly, like I shouldn't take away. They were a wrecking machine.
Oh yeah,
they worked so well together and doing stuff.
They were amazing.
There were, and I hate mentioning it. Let's talk about not taking calls.
Yeah, I mean, so...
Not taking calls is very real, and it happens, and I really don't know how it happens. Because, okay, there was a shield, there was a line of polearm weapons and other things from the Jotun, okay?
Yeah.
They were deliberately designed as a block to work together, because they all had strike down.
Yeah.
They were approached by a line of heavy infantry from the Imperials.
Yeah.
They all said at once... their call and then strike down, then hit down on the Imperials. There were 6 of them. Not one Imperial citizen was struck down. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's unfortunate. I really, to be honest with you, like, it's one of those things where I don't want to dwell on it too much because the obviousness of everything that's involved in it.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, the solutions are fairly obvious and what we would desire is fairly obvious.
I think what it means is more like, I think for some players they don't know what the calls are.
Oh, that's a very different thing, but a very true thing.
I think that is true, and I think there's something to be said about, like, there was a really good player pack at that event.
Yeah,
that literally had every single call written out. So if you're not sure at all about every call that you can have, if you don't know what ability and power does on your weapon, look it up. Right? Like, these are things that you kind of have to bring to the game. I also understand that in the intensity of battle, it's sometimes hard to hear. Yeah. Right? So I would always like to give benefit of doubt to players.
Yes.
But it from my point of view, it did seem a little silly at times with the lack of calls on that battle. That would be my only critique.
Yeah, there's so many elements involved in all of it, and basically when I'm monstering, and like I was in both the battles, I'm just there. I mean, I'm providing fun and challenge where I can, right? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I get killed a lot. That's kind of my job. Right, like, it's just to get killed a lot and to try and make the act of killing me pleasurable and to provide peril along the way. Right, that's it. Right, and I can buy into that a fair bit of the way. Obviously, when there's certain things where you're like, if you'd taken that call, we could have had a more expansive moment. I find that disappointing. Right, like,
for me, it's like, I want to play the game.
Yeah.
Okay, like, I don't want to be. Like, when Ifan died, I could have made a very clear decision to either ignore the call, when everyone had passed me by, pretend that my leg was healed, and then run back. Mm-hmm. I had all of these options to do that. Yeah. And I chose not to, and it was one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had in the game.
Yeah. I think there's so many different elements in it, like, with regards to, do people hear it? Do people understand it? All of that. that it's hard to talk about in terms of anything beyond, as I said, that I think everyone understands the spirit of what we're after.
I hope so.
Yeah, and it was to be honest with you as well. Like when I'm monstering or whatever, if people aren't taking the calls, I normally just go somewhere else and play to have fun.
I think I'm going to change that now. I'm much more in favour of talking to referees now.
Yeah,
much more than I was before. I think it's because I have much more confidence in like what I think should be expected or how I understand the rules to be expected.
And by the way, it sounds like we're making a huge issue of this. I think it's just because it happened and it's something that does happen in LARP.
And it should be something that's talked about.
And it's like, it's I guess it's the time it's happened where it's felt like it's and the right amount of experience maybe from us where we feel like we can talk about certain things.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's difficult.
And I think it's part of the game and therefore definitely worth talking about.
Totally.
Without being like, oh, it's this group of players from this nation or whatever.
Yeah, it's not about that at all, because this happens all over the place,
Absolutely.
by the way. Every skirmish and battle.
Yeah.
And just to, like, I always give benefit of the doubt to the players.
Orcs struggle to hear a lot more
Yes.
because of the mask. If you're in a creature costume,
yes, so I had this
even
a bunch,
harder.
actually, and this is how this can happen. This is why you always have to give it the benefit of the doubt, right? I'm wearing my monster costume with this mask on. There's a bunch of times, there's 2 instances that happened particularly. I got venomed somehow. I didn't feel the hit, and I didn't hear the call. And the ref had to come and tell me, you've been venomed, you're dying of venom.
Yeah.
I honestly couldn't hear it. I couldn't feel it.
I think this might happen with steel helmets as well.
Yeah,
I think
I wouldn't be surprised.
Hearing definitely gets reduced.
Dropped off. Yeah, I honestly couldn't hear very much at all.
Yeah.
And then the other time that happened that was interesting was I got taken down as this monster, and I'm basically getting jabbed by Brad, and who plays Vespasian, and another Eerielight. But I'd fallen, and I couldn't actually see this myself, but I'd fallen into a form patch. And I couldn't hear what they said, but it was kind of those things where I didn't understand what they'd said until I stood up. But he said, "Oh, let him stand up, and then we can continue fighting." I thought he was saying, "Back off," because they're under pressure. That was my interpretation of what they were saying, like let's fall back. So I stood up and I attacked him, right? Which was obviously he was letting me up OC in order to make sure that I was safe.
I think that's fine.
It was fine. It was fine, but it was just one of those things where it made me think like how easily you can mishear something when you're wearing a costume
I think there's
like
something
that.
to be said between 2 mates fighting compared to 2 strangers.
Well, he
Because
didn't know who I was in the costume.
That's what
as
I mean.
well,
But a lot of people can take like undue offence at someone else through purely like whatever.
I think generally the LARP community is really good. Is to be honest with you, the end thing I'd say on this, like
I think there is always going to be a certain percentage of players that are selfish, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is, right? Like, but I think the vast majority want to play the game in the best spirit possible, and that includes like
dying,
risking it all, right? You count your counts.
Yeah.
You take your cleaves.
Yeah.
You take your strike downs and your paralysis as like a good citizen, like you should. You know?
It was but generally, just to be honest, to round out that battle, it just was a really good battle.
Yes,
to be honest with you,
yeah.
I had a really good time being a Jotun. I was absolutely shattered at the end of it.
Well, you gave the whole Jotun force gave so much.
I was
like they
running...
kept on getting respawned and going out there and giving it their.
I went out for every respawn, and it was just like. And I died a lot, right? Yes. I died a lot.
A lot of people died a lot. Yeah.
So yeah, but it was a really good fun battle. Hopefully, we find it entertainment for them. And they enjoyed it.
We're getting there. This is the end of Sunday from the Shadow event.
The only other thing to say, actually, at the end of the battle was that there was a Valorn attack at the very end of it, and one of those Valorn was Sasha.
And they got killed.
They killed him, and they executed him, releasing the spirit, which meant that now we can have a telling for him.
Yes.
And that was the last real story note from the event.
I think the story, the telling of Sasha will be a really good thing to look forward to.
I'm really hype about it.
Who looks forward to a funeral? We do.
We do.
Absolutely. We're going to take a real quick break.
A real quick one. Yeah.
And then we're going to find out whether we're going to try and do the last player event or not.
Yeah. But it's been cracking talking about all this again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Thank you for listening as always. See you soon. Bye.
See you soon.